Hello everybody! JGC Anime here, and today we are going to be talking about the anime In Another World with My Smartphone. This anime was voted on a while back, and I realized I am really late when it comes to uploading anime reviews. I used to upload them like once every week and once every other week, and holy crap, I am really behind. I'm gonna try my best to catch up, but it might still like be once a month. It's hard because I run at least like 3 channels, 2 of which I actually consistently upload on, one I kind of upload on, but yeah. So anyway, let's just hop right into this review. So, what is In Another World with My Smartphone? Basically, it's kind of your generic isekai, In Another World story, where the main character dies and then gets sent to another world, only is super overpowered and yeah, just gets flux of girls along the way. It's basically your everyday isekai with its own little fun twist of the guy having a smartphone that's really powerful. And that's kind of just what the whole premise is. It's not a heavy premise to go off of, although I suppose it kind of is, considering it has over 20 light novels, which I do plan to read, probably, maybe. We'll see at the end of this review. But it has a lot of light novels, so I was kind of intrigued by this anime, because it was actually one of the first ever harem, however you want to pronounce it, animes, where the guy gets like a huge flock of girls coming to him. It's one of the first ones I've ever seen, and so I had kind of like a special connection with it. But after checking it out again, here's what I have to say. So, things I like. I guess the characters to an extent. Like, I'm not saying the characters are all super awesome. For one, the main protagonist is extremely generic, like this innocent guy that has a slight bit of a pervy side, but tends to be a lot more kind and gentle. It's very generic, normal anime protagonist stuff, which makes him very dull. But some of the characters have a lot of interesting personality traits. For the most part, they just seem like you're slap a waifu onto the screen and say that's your waifu something. Just stuff like that. So I definitely don't think that the characters are like super amazing, but they're fine. As for the story, it's also just fine. It's nothing amazing, but I can't say I hate it either. It's just fine. It's just something you kind of sit down, turn your brain off, and just watch it, in a way. But what I dislike would probably be a few of the storylines and how fast-paced some of them are. Like, there are like 4 or 5 storylines in just the single 12 episodes, and I am just so confused at times. Like, one moment it's a murder mystery, or not really a murder mystery, more like a attempted murder mystery, and then another one it's a girl who judges if a person's worthy by their reaction to seeing her without her pants on. I'm already getting super weird in this review, I'm sorry, but it's just the plots could kind of vary, even if they do have like one concurrent plot throughout the entire thing about the characters trying to just like traveling around, etc., etc. It definitely feels like they're just kind of going in random directions with this and saying this is our story. So I can't say I like the story a lot, but I don't dislike it either. It's fine. So it's kind of like diving into the spoiler-free thoughts right now. I think the show is just fine. It has some good moments, it has some bad moments. The animation sometimes looks cheap, other times it looks nice, but it's fine. It's fine. Although, there is one thing I could definitely say I really love about the show. Its opening. Not the visuals for the opening, but the song for the opening. I literally bopped my head to that theme song so many times. It is such a good song. And it's probably one of the first ones that got me into Japanese music in the first place. It's a really good song, and I tend to really enjoy it. So what if I don't understand what the heck they're saying in the song? What's important is I enjoyed the show, and while it wasn't like super amazing, I did find a lot of elements I really liked. But trying to go over what I really liked and disliked would require some spoilers, so we're about to enter the spoiler section of this video. If you guys want to skip the spoilers, here is a timestamp to when the spoiler section is over, where I'll be going over my final thoughts and giving my final review. If you guys have seen the show, I do recommend listening to the spoiler section of this review, because sometimes people will skip right to the end just in order to get the chance to see what my final thoughts were. So if you have seen the show, I'd recommend sticking around, but if you haven't, you can skip to the end. But anyway, let's get to the spoiler section in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's begin. So, stuff I'd have to have mixed feelings on. It's definitely the harem aspect of the show, because the characters who, like the main characters, just constantly flocked with girls consistently over and over again. Like, I don't even know how all these girls fall for him. It's kind of ridiculous. The show has a tendency to push the romantic interests. Like, they kept saying the girls were all in love with him at this point, but other than like one of the characters or two of them, I couldn't see how all of them fell for him. The main character, whose name I can't remember at this time. Hang on, I'm gonna pull it up. I got it up at Toya. I think that's how they pronounce it. Basically, Toya is a very generic protagonist, and apparently all the girls just love flocking to him because reasons, I guess. There's like, as I said, there's like one or two girls in the entire series that actually kind of like have a interesting character development with him that make him, you realize like, yeah, I understand why they'd like him. And the rest are just like, oh, they're in love with him. I'm not even sure how to react to that. It's just kind of a clear thing that the writer who was creating the show either didn't read the light novels fully, or did read them and the creator of the light novels just did a terrible job writing the romantic interests. I won't know. I haven't read the light novels yet, but I do plan to sit down and read them since I've been really getting into light novels. I'm not gonna lie, I used to think anime was the only way I could entertain myself with these stories, but I have been loving the light novels for a lot of these shows. So I might end up sitting down and reading the light novels for that series, but we'll have to see, because the way the anime portrayed it, half these characters being in love with the main character made zero sense. Just the kind of like, they're just like, oh wow, I'm in love with this guy now. It just didn't sit right with me as a small-time writer, because I do have a few things I have written myself in the past, which the ones that have been released I admit are extremely cringeworthy. But just as a growing writer and someone who definitely sees the writing world as a place that requires a lot of effort, the development of these characters definitely should have been explained more before just only being like they're in love with this main character now. So kind of that would be one of my major complaints, but as I mentioned before, I think this show is just very meh. It's fine. It's just something you can sit down and say, yeah, I watched a show. You could even just do what I do with a lot of animes I don't really care for. Just pull out your Nintendo Switch and go filling your Pokédex and Pokemon's Shield. Just trying to fill that up while putting the anime on in the background. Now, that means you would have to probably put the dub on, which I did watch of this show, because before I knew sub sometimes sounded better than the dub. Not always. There are times I'd rather watch the dub, but there are times where I will switch to a sub version of a show just because I think it's better. Just sometimes it's best to just take your like stuff out and just do something else while listening to the anime in the background. Some people could probably do that with this show. For me personally, though, because it was one of the first animes I ever sat down and watched, I must admit that I kinda I sat through the entire show and didn't entirely regret it. I did enjoy a couple elements of the show. The murder or attempted murder detective case that happens in the first few episodes, I found myself to really enjoy, and there were definitely a few moments in the show I found myself just really liking. However, there are the same things. The generic protagonists, the generic girls who all fall for the main character despite the fact having almost no romantic chemistry. It was your basic play isekai. Although I do have a tendency to like a lot of basic isekai. The reason I say I'm really into generic isekai is definitely due to the fact that there's this one anime called something Ragnarok. I'm not gonna pull it up, but I might make a review on it in the future. Everyone says it's complete and utter crap, and it's one of the worst isekais ever written. I sat down and watched it and thought it was okay. It wasn't terrible, it wasn't amazing, it was just okay. So maybe I just have really bad tastes, because these shows aren't as bad as people make them out to be. I almost kind of wished for another season of In Another World with my smartphone, just because its premise is so ridiculous and so overpowered. Just with the main character, he literally uses his phone to activate some kind of missile magic bullet things to kill a bunch of monsters, and something that would have been a huge threat he took up in like 10 seconds. Those moments are kind of funny to me, and I do love an overpowered protagonist, but even for overpowered protagonists, this is kind of ridiculous. He's definitely no Saitama, that's for sure, if people get that reference from One Punch Man. But I trying to describe this show in words that are more than just it's fine is definitely a difficult task to do. Again, it's just fine. I can't really say that much more, so we're at the conclusion now. So, to wrap this up, I'd say, as I've been mentioning this entire video, that it was fine. It was fine. It was entertaining to an extent. I found myself enjoying it a decent amount, and in the end, it was decent. I enjoyed it, but not to the extent that I used to enjoy it back when I first watched it. It was fine, and I thought it was decent, but compared to some of the shows I see nowadays, it's very weak. But yeah, that's what I could say about it. All in all, I give this anime a 6 out of 10. It was enjoyable to an extent, but only to those who can handle just generic isekai storylines with generic main protagonists with almost no major storytelling to go off of. It was just fine. Nothing amazing, nothing terrible, just fine. It was fine. That's all I can really say. I thank you all for listening. I'm JGC Anime, and I thank you all for watching. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. I release anime reviews whenever I feel like it, and yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all around. Peace!